All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Conscientious Omnivore. My name is Pal. I'm going to do a really quick stream today. I don't have much time, but I figured I would jump on for a few minutes to share something that I found really interesting with you guys. And it's a bit of a mixed bag of news for me. In general, I think it's really positive, but has a little bit of a kind of a warning with it as well, that I think it could end up being negative for us as vegans and for the animals, of course. So yeah, let's get into it. If anybody who's on and watching, just maybe let me know if the audio is okay. I know the fan noise is probably there, like usual. I can't really help with that, but anyway, I'm going to just jump into it and share my screen, and hopefully everybody can see it, and let me know if you can't, okay? Let me jump in here. Actually, I got to resize this window. Just 1 second. Maybe about there. Okay, good. And here we go. Let's jump in. Okay. Hopefully you guys can see the screen now. I want to talk about this article. It's coming from Farmer's Guardian, which is a seemingly pro-farmer or farmer-geared news site. And it's talking about the need for the dairy industry to cut its carbon footprint, environmental footprint. And they're saying this because they're running scared, and they know that vegans are after them. And it's actually a really funny thing that I want to talk about, because their idea is completely, I don't know, like incorrect. Like, it's not that vegans are after dairy farmers. It's not that we're after any kind of farmers. It's we are out to try and end animal cruelty and animal exploitation. And that's what we're after. I don't want any farmer to go bankrupt. I want them to switch to a business model that doesn't involve the exploitation of animals. So it's a little bit of kind of a misunderstanding, I would say. But anyway, just there was a specific kind of thing in here that caught my eye, and yeah, basically, I got this from the Vegan Punk on Twitter. So follow the Vegan Punk. Shout out to the Vegan Punk. If you don't follow this person yet, check them out on Twitter. They basically want to cut emissions by 30% to counter the basically the media assault by vegans on social media, and they want to try to prop up their business. So I looked through the article. I shared as well my view on it. This is what I said about it. I said they've lost the battle on ethics, because in the article they say that what did they say? A consultant states that the industry has lost the battle against vegans on social media. And I say that they've lost the battle on ethics, not on social media. Their business is completely unethical, and regardless of what they do, and regardless of what kind of environmental sustainability they can achieve, their business model is based on inherent cruelty. It's barbaric. It involves the impregnation and taking away the baby of a sentient animal with strong maternal bonds, and it's just going to be cruel no matter what they do. So I think that's the main thing that we should focus on, and I want to get into the article and show you guys kind of what it basically says. So yeah, basically there is this there's this push, I guess. It's trying to encourage farmers. There was an industry presentation that they did, where they have a draft plan in place to reduce the environmental footprint by 30% over the next 10 years. And then that will hopefully ward off government intervention and laws put in place to kind of, punish them for their environmental impact. So this is the opinion of Kite Consulting's John Allen, who said the vegan movement is using the environmental footprint of farming as its Trojan horse in the hope of converting people to their persuasion, and the fundamental idea is to remove that powerful guilt prop. So it's really funny that this person seems to think that the only argument vegans have against dairy is this environmental impact, when it couldn't be further from the truth. In my mind, it's certainly an important thing that they're also destroying the environment, but it's by no means the most important. In my mind, the most important is that they're exploiting horrifically animals that are very much maternal and have maternal instincts just like us, and they fight to protect their babies, and we take away their babies so we can steal their milk. That's my problem. It doesn't matter how bad the environmental impact is. Even if they could reduce it to zero, I would still have an issue with it. So it's just, this is where I take issue with this thing, that he's thinking that this guilt prop is only there for the environmental thing. It's really funny. So he says, we see ourselves being in a war at present with vegans, and there is no point in fighting them in the social media space. We've already lost that battle. So this is the kind of sentence that I want to say is the good news. We have beat them in social media. I mean, there isn't a single leg they can stand on when it comes to the ethics. In social media, when people share images of how milk is produced, how cheese is produced, it's going to involve the artificial insemination of cows, the taking of their babies when they're sometimes just hours old, sometimes a few days old, but does it really matter? Like, this is another thing that I get into arguments with dairy farmers on Twitter about. It's like, oh, well, we don't take our babies away until they're 2 weeks old. It's like, oh, wow, 2 weeks? Oh, geez, oh, that's so much better. Like now the cow's actually had an even more, time to bond with its baby. Like, it's probably even more heartbreaking, like, if anything. But I mean, there's just no right way to do the wrong thing. No matter what they do, no matter how they take away the babies, it's taking away the babies. Like, that's what's wrong. So anyway, I think that's the good news that I want to focus on, that yes, they have already lost the battle in social media. And then here's where I wanted to say that I have a warning for everybody who's a vegan activist, that we can't sit on our laurels and say, okay, look, man, we beat them in social media. February Dairy is a fail. It was a comical display of ignorance on their part to think that they could win followers and likes and stuff on social media, Twitter, Facebook, etc., with a campaign like February Dairy. As I put in the description of this video, if anybody hasn't seen it, I think it was 2 years ago actually now, or maybe a year and a half ago in February. Yeah, it was last February Dairy. I put out a series of videos about February Dairy where I dispel all the myths about dairy being humane. I talk about the cruelty involved. I talked about the environmental impact. I talked about the health consequences of dairy consumption. And then I also made a separate video talking about what people can do as dairy farmers to switch to a more ethical line of business, i.e. veganic farming. So watch those videos if you haven't seen them. I definitely encourage them. I've been sharing them a lot the past couple of weeks on Twitter because I've been kind of going back and forth with a lot of people from dairy farming businesses. But check those out. Share them, please. If you haven't seen those, go check those out. But yeah, basically, these guys know that they have lost that battle. So we can't just assume that that's enough. We have to keep going to the next part. And so here's their idea. It says, in the next one, the next battle meaning, we have got to ensure that we get our message over to policymakers, as we have got to outflank them and use our wits as we are fighting for our lives. So again, it's a mixed message to me, because he realizes that the dairy industry is kind of on its last gasping breaths in some ways. They know they're going to be going bankrupt if they don't change and do something else. But this guy is taking the completely wrong approach. He thinks that by going in this environmentally slightly less damaging route, that we are going to give up and be like, oh cool, dairy's fine now. And no, dairy's not fine. We're not going to stop. We're not going to give up. And the scary part here, and the part that I want everybody to focus on, is that he's literally telling people, like, we got to go to policymakers and we have to outflank the vegans. So what that means is they're going to be using their money. They're going to be using their lobbyists. They're going to go to politicians. They're going to bribe people. Look at the lawsuits in the past few months. Look at the regulations in the EU, in the US. You can't label oat milk as milk. You can't label soy milk as milk. You can't do all this kind of stuff. They're going after plant-based cheeses. They're going after all these kinds of things. And it's just it's a outright shame. I'm getting an error on my live stream. It's saying that there's some buffering. Hopefully you guys can hear me. I don't know. But hey, Teresa, thanks for joining. But anyway, yeah. So basically, you know, these guys know that they're in trouble, and they are gonna use all the power they have to try and lobby and get messages to politicians. But look at all the laws that have been put in place to prohibit people from calling plant cheeses cheese, from calling plant milks milk, and yogurt and all this kind of stuff. It's a complete, you know, last-ditch effort in a lot of ways, and I hope that that's how it's going to play out in the history books. But make no mistake about it, these guys are trying really hard, and they will put a lot of money in, and they will be pushing politicians to protect their industry and continue with these massive, you know, funding and bailouts to their industry coming from your taxpayer money and my taxpayer money. So I just think this is a really important thing, and I think, you know, we need to do the same. We need to go and tell politicians, you vote for this kind of stuff, you're out. I'm not voting for you. With that said, I also want to jump back to this thread here on the Vegan Punks post, which I tweeted out. There was a great post here by this person here, Spencer Coda. They said, unfortunately, unfortunately, the strategy is working wonders in the U.S. Almost every Democratic candidate is proposing increased meat and dairy subsidies in the name of regenerative agriculture. I'm going to do a separate video about regenerative agriculture, and I'm going to do a video about Alan Savory. So be on the lookout for that. That's going to be coming up. But just in very short, it's a joke. Animal agriculture is one of the most destructive things on the environment, on the ecology, that is possible. It's the worst thing possible. There is no such thing as regenerative agriculture. It is a buzzword that people are trying to use now, trying to save their industry of continued animal exploitation and destruction of the environment. And it's a shame that people seem to be falling for this. So yeah, this guy says, I think the vegan movement needs to take notice, get offline, and start contacting politicians. I say stay online, but also start contacting politicians. So that's my take for it. And you know, he mentions also that, yeah, the activists from the Rebels, Animal Rebellion, which is kind of like an offshoot of the Extinction Rebellion, you know, and other groups are really trying to push for change at a legal level, you know, at a political level, and that's what I think we should do, is do both. We have to do everything we can to try to convince people on social media to continue ditching these products and voting with our wallets. A lot of times these politicians are going to do the wrong thing. They're being paid exorbitant amounts of money to do the wrong thing. And I haven't been watching, honestly, the Democratic debates, but I'm sure that this is accurate. It wouldn't surprise me at all. As I've covered many times before, it is both political parties that are for the exploitation of animals. None of these guys are all that different when it comes to doing the wrong thing with regards to animals. And yeah, it's just really sad, and I think we can't trust them. We have to vote with our most powerful voice, which is our wallet. And that's where social media is king, because that's where you get people to stop buying these products. These companies will keep doing the wrong thing as long as it's profitable. At some point, the subsidies will dry up. At some point, when the stuff is rotting on the shelves and nobody's buying it, they will have to face the music and stop producing more. And that is the point that, like, you know, social media is really getting across. So yeah, we do need to get the subsidies stopped. We do need to get politicians in place that will fight for that. And that's, you know, something that we also need to do, but we can't give up the social media side as well. And then I just want to go back to the article here. Their proposal is basically one that is going to make animal cruelty even worse than it already is. So they're basically saying that in the next 10 years, we believe we can reduce the carbon footprint by up to 30%, and I think that could deliver guilt-free dairy to a lot of consumers who are currently being made to feel guilty about consuming dairy and livestock products, he declared. Now again, I'm not going to rehash again, but like, it's far from cruelty-free, far from a guilt-free product, but you know, I've already covered that. What they want to do is they basically want to increase yield per cow. So they want to go up from the present roughly 8,000 kilograms of yield per cow. And isn't it disgusting too that, like, the lactation of a mother, which is meant to feed its baby, is just yield. It's just a commodity. It's just a thing. It's like you going to the factory and hitting the stamping machine, and you have a yield that you made this many stamped metal license plates when you're in prison or something. That's your yield, and this is the yield of the cow. It's just absolutely disgusting that they can talk about it like this, but that's neither here nor there. They want to increase it from 8,000 kilograms to 10,500, and they're saying that with some herds they can do 15,000 to 1,000 and 1,000 kilograms of solids. Hey Leon, thanks for joining. Teresa, good morning. Nope, we will never give up, not until animals are free. That's right. That's right. Sad that all that money spent fighting for dairy can't be used to change their business. Such a waste. Absolutely. These guys spend hundreds of millions of dollars on lobbying. They spend literally billions of dollars on advertisements. They could be redesigning their business to focus on plant milks. That is the future. That's what they should be doing. So yeah, it's ridiculous. So anyway, so they're basically saying they're going to make fertility rates go up. They're going to get yields to go up, and through these combined things, they're going to increase pregnancy rates. I mean, think about that. They are impregnating these cows every single year. I think it's actually less than a full year for the cycle. Don't quote me on that. Look it up. And I don't want some pro-dairy person arguing with me that I don't know what I'm talking about. It's really, really insane. There's like a never-ending process of impregnating the cows. They are constantly either pregnant or have just given birth. And that's how you get them to produce milk. It's just like a human. Just like any other mammal. They only produce milk when they're either pregnant or they're already given birth, and they should be nursing their babies. So they want to increase the pregnancy rates, and they want to also increase the yields through other things like more effective rest and forage and temperature sensing and all these fancy technology kind of strategies that can get the cows to produce even more milk. Now, if anybody knows anything about milk production, you'll know that the cows already suffer extreme pains from the excessive milk production that they are selectively bred to do. So the mastitis, which is a painful udder infection, just the udders swelling to ridiculous sizes, all these other kinds of things are already there. They are already suffering, and their solution is to make the poor cows produce even more milk. That's their answer. And they're like, oh, it'll be a guilt-free, treat that people can go back to. I mean, how disconnected from reality do you have to be to just to believe that this is going to work? So this is what we're up against. I just think, again, we have to be vigilant. We have to fight these people. This is insane. They should be switching to non-dairy products like oat milk and rice milk and every other milk, hemp milk and whatever else people want to make and drink, and that is what is going to be the future. And these guys are on the wrong path, and they're doing the wrong thing, and they're trying desperately to find the right way to do the wrong thing. And no matter what they do, even if they, as I said in my tweet here, if they could increase yield to make all the world's milk from just one cow, it would still be evil. And that's my view. I don't care that they're going to reduce the environmental devastation that they contribute to by 30%. First of all, it's still not enough because they're still destroying the environment. They're still harming the environment. And second of all, the cruelty doesn't go away for the animals. In fact, they're making it worse. There was a great post here by Alan Watson. Follow Alan on Twitter as well. Amazing stuff from that account as well. But here, this is the nail right on the head. They face huge problems. Increasing milk yield from the present 8,000 to 10,500 kilograms or more means more confinement, more animal abuse, and more feed, all of which are unpopular with the public. Meanwhile, economies of scale equals cheaper plant milks. And that is the summary of what these people should realize. And I just don't understand that somebody could be that kind of focused on their this is the only thing I know, this is what I got to keep doing. It's just pick your head up and look around. This is not the future. This is not the world that we should want to live in. Hey, Perpetually Annoyed. Welcome. So, and hey, Case Pimp. Oh man, the names keep getting more interesting. So yeah, that's all I got. I wanted to keep it pretty short today. Definitely check out these these articles and check out my previous February videos for anybody who hasn't seen those yet. I think there's a lot of really good information in there, especially about the environmental ones too. Like, a lot of people don't know how much water goes into dairy production. I show in there some stats and information about how it compares to, say, fracking, like a fracking well, and it's not favorable. So, dairy production is actually on par or worse in some cases than fracking wells, which everyone knows is terrible for the environment and produces a lot of pollution in the water and all this kind of stuff. Sorry, just need a drink. So, yeah, a lot of talking. That's pretty much what I got. More crazy news about dairy is, like, you can see it right here on the side, the badger cull. I mean, I've done live streams where I talked about the badger cull too. The badger cull is not reducing TB. That's tuberculosis, bovine tuberculosis, for anybody who is not aware of it. You can see the farmers' take on this. They're basically saying that the badger cull is working to reduce the outbreaks, but that is not the truth. I just tweeted out something earlier this week that showed the numbers haven't gotten better. The outbreaks haven't been contained, and they won't be contained by it. They're simply just killing tens upon thousands. I think the latest call numbers that they allowed is going to be like another 60 or 70,000 badgers that are going to be killed. It's not working, people. And the reason why it's not working is because the spread of the bovine tuberculosis isn't happening through the badgers primarily. It's happening through the movement of the cattle. I did a live stream a long time ago. I don't remember which one it was. It was one of the vegan news and views ones. But I went over a map where they showed cattle movements in the UK, and you can just see the insane amount of kilometers and mileage that these animals are, faced to suffer through, trucks and whatever when they're being moved from either farm to farm or farm to slaughterhouse, and that is when the spread of these diseases is happening. It has nothing to do with the badgers. It's just, I don't know, like, I just don't even understand it. Like, all the scientists that know anything about the animals and the way that this disease is spreading have all come out against it, but for some reason the farmers are able to lobby enough that they get the politicians to agree to these large badger culls. It's just absolutely crazy. So, Leon says, huge farmer protest going on in the Netherlands again today due to the EU nitrogen lawsuit. This is the first I've heard of February. Going to check out your articles. Thank you for including them. Oh, thanks, Teresa. Please do check those out. I think you'll like them. February is this crazy idea that the dairy industry came up with. I think it was 2 years ago or last year. I don't remember. It may have been the year before last. But anyway, it was led by this person who was the dairy industry's person of the year. She's a very outspoken proponent of dairy farming. Her name is Bovi Diva on Twitter. I don't remember her actual real name. But Jude Capper, I think is her name. I think, yeah, that's it. And she's just a piece of work. But I actually talked about her in the environmental impact video, the February one that I did, because I referred to one of the studies that she did in which she actually showed that the environmental impact of dairy production has gone down in the past decades by moving to a more factory farm style, more confinement, more like, higher yield, like, non-grass fed dairy style. It's absolutely insane. Like, their own dairy spokesperson admits willingly that it's through these steps that they can reduce the carbon footprint and the water use and all this kind of stuff because they are able to increase yield per cow. So yeah, check that out. I think you'll really enjoy it. Yeah, Leon says, Case Pimp asked if it was pro-farmer for the protest. The farmers are protesting having to reduce their livestock numbers to combat nitrogen emissions. One of our parties proposed slashing livestock numbers by 50% a while ago. Yeah, I saw tweets about that, and I got into an exchange a little bit with one of the anonymous members who was supporting the farmers and basically saying that it's it's not the farmers' fault, and why is all the blame being put on the farmers, and why are they being made to feel the economic impact of the government wanting to make this change. And if anybody's not on Twitter, follow my account. You'll see all these exchanges I had with this guy from Anonymous. But it's like, they sort of get half the idea, but they really don't understand that, like, you have to tackle this at a legal level. You have to tackle it as, like, you have to stop the subsidies going to these companies. If we're supposed to be living in this capitalist society, like a business model that needs billions of dollars of tax money to stay alive and be subsidized by tax money, like, it's like that company shouldn't exist. That business model shouldn't exist. This is not a sustainable way. It's not a sustainable future. And that's what I think people need to realize. So, yeah, they're kind of barking up the wrong tree. And they went and did these huge protests with, like, tractors. They, like, went and blockaded roads and all this kind of stuff. I saw a lot of pictures. Kathy, hey, Kathy. She wants to know if Kay's pimp has found Kay yet. Oh, happy birthday to somebody. Is it Kathy's birthday? Anyway, happy birthday, I guess. Whoever's birthday is. Happy birthday, Kathy. Leon, it's not about fault, it's about understanding the problem and how to fix it. Absolutely. These guys should be getting subsidies to transition their business to plant-based options. That's the real bulk of it. If you want to support the farmers, the option is not to continue subsidizing their business, which is obviously, unethical, unsustainable, environmentally, horrifically cruel to the animals. It's not a good business model. It's like, tell them you got to switch to something else. Switch to plant farming. Switch to oat milk. I've done articles where I reviewed articles in the past where dairy farm that has been around for almost 100 years in I think it was Illinois in the U.S. or someplace. I can't remember exactly, but they switched to doing exclusively plant milks now. Their dairy farm was there for like 100 years, or I think it was like 99 years or whatever it was. Family owned, blah blah blah, the whole works. And they realized, like, yeah, there's not enough money in there to stay viable, and they're going to switch. And they switched to profitable plant milk, company. So that's the solution. And if these guys don't want to, see that and switch, then by all means, like, go bankrupt. I don't care. Like, that's the way I see it. So yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I have for today. If anybody has any questions or any other comments, let me know. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Check out the February Dairy videos. Please keep sharing stuff on your social media of choice. If you use Facebook, if you use YouTube, if you use whatever, keep getting the message out there. Dairy is scary. Dairy is not sustainable. Dairy is horrifically cruel. It's not humane, no matter how much they want to dress it up. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff that I talk about in the humane myth video as well. But yeah, if it was nothing else than just taking the baby away, that's it. That's horrifically cruel enough. I'm a parent. I know what that would go, and do to me if somebody ever took my kids away from me. And as a mom, I can only imagine that that's probably multiplied, multiple fold worse than even for a father. So yeah, that's all I got. Cool. Thanks, guys. Have a great one. See you in the next one sometime soon. Bye.